Allison.
Thank you, Jen. I'm Allison Pierman, and I have the privilege to manage the AMD Foundation, and it's a thrill to be here today. This is my very first TEDx conference, and I've got to tell you, I've been both challenged and inspired by so much of what we've heard today. I think we're all drawn to TED, at least I was, because I have a deep love of learning, always looking for new opportunities and new people and ideas, and that's exactly what we found here today. But I wish I could say the same for many of the students who are in our schools today. But in reality, if you've been in a high school classroom recently, you've likely seen a large majority of the students who are really tuned out. And in fact, in the most recent high school survey of student engagement, a full 2/3 of the students indicated that they were bored in class every day. And yet, we know that these same students, when they go home, are turning on to technology and video games in a very big way. In fact, it's been estimated that 97% of American teens play some sort of online games. And further, that by the time some of these kids turn age 21, they will actually have spent as much as 10,000 hours playing video games. So at AMD, we've been exploring this intersection, if you will, between education and gaming for some time. And it led us to create an initiative called AMD Changing the Game, which is designed to excite kids to learn by getting them involved in creating their own games, but not just any games, games that have social issues that are important to them. And in doing so, we know that they learn some really great stuff. Things like creative thinking and problem solving and teamwork, collaboration, communication skills, and oh, by the way, the all-important science, technology, engineering, and math. But the beauty of the program is that these kids are so engaged in the learning that they don't realize what they're getting. And I think you can see that with some of the slides that are scrolling behind me. Since launching the initiative in 2008, we've been able to reach about 3,000 kids in 3 countries, and we have plans to reach thousands more around the globe. But the most important thing is the impact this program is having on individuals. One of those students was a young man named Otis. Otis was a foster youth who attended a very poor performing high school where the graduation rate was a measly 30%. So, like many of his classmates, Otis didn't see himself graduating from high school, much less going beyond. But he got involved in a Changing the Game program through an organization called Global Kids. And he and a group of his peers met after school for many, many months, and they created a game about poverty in Haiti. And in the process, a light bulb went off for Otis. And he found that he had a passion, number one, for creative writing, but he found that he had a future for the very first time. So I'm pleased to tell you that Otis did graduate from that high school, and he's now in his 2nd year of college. He's an English major with plans to become a professional writer. So here's what I believe about the power of integrating games in education. I believe we can connect with students by providing more relevancy into the classroom. And I believe we can meet them where they are through video games. I believe we can inspire them to learn by giving them a platform to communicate about their pet issues. And I believe we can give teachers a tool to help fight the boredom factor. But most of all, and right now, I believe we can help change the future for students like Otis and so many others out there like him. I hope you get a chance to see the xLab upstairs. I'd love for you to see some of the games that these kids are creating, but also to realize that one by one, they are really changing their own lives. Oliver?
Thanks, Allison. I'm Oliver Campbell. I'm the packaging guy at Dell. I wasn't always a packaging guy, but I've always been green. I grew up on a farm in a little town in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes. From there to engineering improvements and car emissions at Ford, then here to Texas and the governor's office to implementing clean air programs, and finally to Dell. What I've come to share today, and really what I've learned over the last 3 years, is how we can use ancient materials in some of our high-tech packaging products. Doing so, I think, challenges us about really what are some of the core unspoken assumptions about what green packaging really means. I started out really not much experience in packaging when I took my current role, but I did have three key things going for me. One was desire. Our North Star is create the best packaging in the world. And this attitude really pushed us to redefine problems and take some of the necessary risks needed to challenge conventional thinking. That's easily said, but it really took a lot of courage. We had to take a hard look at ourselves and what we stood for, and we also had to challenge and convince the skeptical industry. But then we did the second thing. We listened. We listened closely and carefully to customers. What they told us very clearly was, we want more sustainable packaging. Not fancy packaging, just simple, sustainable. And third, we did lateral thinking. We knew we had to cross-pollinate ideas from different areas to where we were working if we had any hope of displacing petroleum-based foams and styrofoams. Here's where my farm background came in handy, because I'd been exposed to a number of different materials. And I'm not talking duct tape and baling twine. So could we steal a few ideas from agriculture? And so this approach really led us to a material strategy that focused beyond just more recycled newsprint, because that intrinsically involved trees. We had to challenge conventional thinking. So what's that mean? Well, in fibers, cardboard is the most common, and could we go beyond the trees that are needed to make it? Could we do more to save trees, protect forests? Because after all, it takes a tree 20 to 40 years to grow, and then we have to replant it. So we came up with an idea of sustainable agricultural materials, particularly rapid renewables. So could we take a grass like bamboo, now let him rip off his shirt, not me. Could we take a material like bamboo, an ancient building material? Like Clark Kent, it's stronger than steel, it's faster than a speeding bullet, not really, but it does grow faster than anything else, and it has a high potential for recyclability. The results are 1/2 of our consumer notebooks and 3/4 of our business notebooks will be packaged in bamboo by the end of the year. Thanks. That's a huge number. And it's literally millions of units a year. And it's also substantial cost savings. And so we have the other type of green covered as well. But customers love it. It helps them be greener. And it helps make for a better planet. I think that's really what's important here. And so what's next? That's kind of the eternal tech question. So here's what we think's in store for the future. Bamboo is a great indigenous material for China. It comes from China, we use it in China. But what about other countries of the world? Are there ancient materials there that we could use? We're currently investigating the waste or chaff of well-known crops like wheat, which has up to 3 harvests a year. It's another ancient building material. It's organic, biodegradable, compostable. What's not to like? People with good intentions often ask us, why don't you just focus on more recycled cardboard? Kind of a status quo question. And we respond that our ancient materials, which most of our rapid renewables like bamboo and potentially wheat chaff, trump trees. Here's why. The unstated assumption behind recycled paper is about saving trees and land use. In our world, many of the ancient materials, and as rapid renewables, can achieve the same goal much more efficiently and naturally through significantly faster growing cycles. So we believe that by using rapid renewables like bamboo can significantly relieve some of the environmental pressures we face. And in that way, ancient materials truly can provide modern solutions. Thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. Hi, my name is Esther Havens, and I call myself a humanitarian photographer. For the last 7 years, I've traveled the world photographing stories for nonprofit organizations in developing countries and getting to know people. It's exactly what I dreamed of doing, but not exactly the way I thought it would first be. If I can get the slide here. A few years ago, I found myself in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I saw this young child, and he was the cutest little child, but he was malnourished. And I actually got down on my knees, and I photographed this picture. When I took the photo, I looked on the back of the viewfinder and actually got excited inside, because it was a picture of Africa I'd always seen, the picture of Africa that I wanted. But I was excited about someone else's suffering. I was excited about this photo that was for me. It was for my portfolio. It had nothing to do with this child. I came back from that trip in the DRC and told myself I was either going to change or I was going to put my camera down. Who we are is not our circumstance. A few months later, I found myself in Rwanda with Manwundi. She was elegant and beautiful, but I thought there's no way that she knows how beautiful she is. I could have photographed her with flies on her or the dirt that she, had from working in the fields, but that's not what I wanted to do. This time, I got below her and I looked up to her. I wanted her to see how absolutely wonderful and empowered she is. And I told her to look into the light. I heard this voice inside that said that the light is shining upon her. And when I looked past the surface of what I saw this strong woman who wakes up every single day with a baby on her back and goes to the fields to provide for her families, because she just wants to provide for her kids just like we all do. It's like she lives in poverty, but she didn't choose it or ask for it. In the same village, I met Jean Bosco, and Jean Bosco changed a lot of things for me. He was walking to from his house into water to gather dirty water, and that was his drinking water. It's the stuff that you didn't want to touch or even get near. Charity Water had just funded a water project in his village, and in 3 days, I was celebrating with the whole community as we pumped clean water out of a well. I took his story back to the U.S., and I told it again and again and again. And I found that by telling his story, it compelled others to act, and it compelled others to give. The more they heard, that's John Bosco, here we go. My new approach to story is that I put the camera on my back now. I feel that everybody has a story, and if I can connect with their story and get to know them, then I'm going to be able to connect that with you. I believe that we can be the tools to bring about change in the world. And if each of you guys have ideas and visions and dreams, then I envision a world that we can have education and clean water. And I believe that by telling the stories that change stories, that this can happen. So, thank you so much.